than 7 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's disease, and while there are treatments on the market, there is currently no cure. One new drug currently in clinical trials is offering hope for many, though. It is called LM11A31, or Compound 31, and it approaches treatment very differently from existing Alzheimer's therapies. Joining us right now to talk about it is Dr. Frank Longo. He's a Standford University professor who actually headed up the neurology department there for 18 years. He's also the co-founder of Pharmatropics. That's the company that has created this new drug. Dr. Longo, thank you for being with us this morning. It's good to see you.
It's great to be here.
Let's talk a little bit about how this drug is different from what exists on the market today, those drugs that try and target amyloid plaques.
Right. So the drug's different in a number of ways. So the problem with Alzheimer's is we're losing the synaptic connections between the neurons. And there are multiple forces causing those connections to degenerate. There's the amyloid that accumulates in the brain, the toxic forms of the tau protein, or damages the synapses, and inflammation. And on the market today, there are drugs that go after the amyloid, but not the other two. And so our drug deals with all three. So that's how it's different.
You don't think the amyloid drugs are all that effective at this point?
Well, they're the important start. I mean, they help a little bit, but they slow the loss of cognition, by just a small amount. So it's a good start, but we need something much more powerful.
You've completed phase 2 and phase 2A trials. What did Compound 31 show in those trials?
Sure, the phase 2A trials in mild to moderate Alzheimer patients, we did brain scans, we did spinal taps, we did blood tests. So we looked at those patients very thoroughly. And all three of those measures indicate that we significantly slow down the degeneration of the brain. We slow down the loss of those synaptic connections. We're very excited about that.
How many patients were involved in that study?
About 240. So we had about 80 on placebo, 80 on a low dose, and about 80 on a higher dose.
You also sent the results of that study out to Indiana University to confirm what you had found. I think we're looking at some
Sure.
Graphics of what you found on that. Why don't you talk us through what we're looking at?
Sure. We took one of the forms of brain scans from that trial, and we coded the data so the Indiana University group would be blinded. And they have a new technique where they can measure network function in the brains of the patients in our trial. And what they found was that there was not much effect on the placebo group, but in the patients on the drug, they're able to reverse the degeneration of the network. So what that image is showing in red is where we're gaining function of the network and the connections that are lost in Alzheimer's. The red is actually showing the drug effect of reversing that loss versus the placebo.
And Indiana University was able to say, hey, we know who was on the placebo, who was on the low dose, who was on the high dose based on what they saw in that activity.
And we're excited about that because it's an independent group that was blinded to the data.
The age-old question is whether amyloid plaques actually cause Alzheimer's or result from what's happening with Alzheimer's. And we still don't know. And if you found a family that has amyloid plaques everywhere but doesn't get dementia, that strongly argues that it's not necessarily just stopping amyloid plaques that would cure Alzheimer's.
Right. That remains a controversial question in the field. How much is amyloid contributing? I think most people think it's at least one important contributor. I think it's one important contributor. But an amazing observation is there are people whose brains are filled with amyloid, even the toxic tau, and they don't get demented. They live into their 70s and 80s.
And their synapses are what think that they're still intact. That's what seems to be the key.
Exactly. And the key word there is resilience. We call that resilience, and we think our drug is creating this resilience. It's tapped into this resilience mechanism.
And it's based somewhat on some gene that is either mutated in this family or this line of family, where in Colombia or something?
Right, there's a family in Colombia that has a very strong gene that if you have that mutated gene, you for sure will get Alzheimer's. And there was a patient, those families generally have dementia starting at about age 40, and there was a patient there who made it into his 70s. He's perfectly well. His brain was filled with amyloid, and he's demonstrating resilience. Now, he's lucky that he had resilience. And the goal with our drug is so that everyone can be resilient.
How did you come up with this drug to begin with? I know this was 20 years in the making.
Yeah, well, this drug has been a 20-year journey, and the started off in my academic labs, supported by funding from the NIH, the Alzheimer's Association, the Alzheimer Drug Development Foundation, the Estee Lauder family that started that here in New York. And then once we finished testing in mice, we wanted to move it to people. So my wife Ann Longo and I started our company, Pharmatropics. She's a co-founder, the initial CEO. And we started the company to do the clinical trials and manage the commercial development. And so that's how we've done the human trials.
The phase 3 trials can cost millions and millions, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars. Where do you stand right now with a phase 3 trial at this point?
Right, well, where we stand with the phase 3 trial, we're ready to go. We've scaled up production of the drug, so we have enough drug to do a phase 3 trial. This is the drug right here. It's a pill. It can be taken orally. The existing treatments are intravenous or injection, and they do have some important side effects, brain swelling or brain hemorrhage. This drug doesn't cause either one of those side effects, and it can be taken orally. So we think this will be accessible to a lot more people. So this is the medication. We've scaled up production, so we think once we have the funding, we can enroll the first patients within about 6 months.
Wow. The interesting part about this is you have done these studies with Alzheimer's, but you think that drug can work in a lot of other applications, including traumatic brain injury, Huntington's disease, I want to say Lewy body disease,
yes.
Lewy body Parkinson's too.
Yeah, this drug, because it makes the synapses resilient, and that's the key word here, resilience, it's a fundamental mechanism that can be applied to a number of brain disorders. So for example, there's a rare form of dementia called progressive supranuclear palsy, or PSP. That's where too much tau accumulates in the brain. Patients will start enrolling in a trial of taking this drug this summer. The NIH is funding that trial, and this drug was selected for that trial. They'll be enrolling this summer.
So 86 billion neurons in the brain, hundreds of trillion of synapses. So AI, when do we get sentient AI? Is it ever possible when you think about that?
With that many synapses, I think it can
got a ways to go.
Compete well with AI. That's human AI right there.
I mean, we see green and smell perfume and memories and feelings, and I mean it's all mediated by synapses.
It is. I'm a neurologist. I'm biased for the human brain.
But how about a genome that can have the blueprint to set up? I mean, how mind-boggling is that? Almost godlike.
Yes. I mean, we're still in the early days of understanding how the genome translates into setting up the brain and how all this wires are formed.
I mean, a lot of it is obviously as things are happening, it's developed.
Right.
It's feedback that does it, but there must be an unbelievable blueprint to start with.
I think there is an unbelievable blueprint, and I think that's why the basic science remains important. That's what's helping us figure out how we get from genes to this beautiful organ in our body. The basic science is telling us we need a combination of the basic science and then translating and then good human trials.
It's also binary. Everything that happens somehow is just that either the neuron either fires or it doesn't fire, right?
Yeah, that's
one or the other.
Well, we can modulate those connections, so when you learn something, you're making the synaptic connection stronger than it was before you learned that. So it's important to keep learning things.
Dr. Longo, very quickly, I know that you got into this because of a very personal reason. Do you want to explain why you're a neurologist?
Sure. I've been interested in the brain since I was a child. I have a sister, my sister Patty, who's 1 year younger than me. She was born prematurely and suffered brain damage at birth. It's called cerebral palsy. And so she's cognitively impaired. She was in a wheelchair. So as a child, I went to the doctor visits that my mother was taking her to. And I asked why the doctors couldn't make my sister Patty walk. And my mother, who was a nurse and therefore a medical authority, said, "You can't fix the brain. There are no treatments for the brain." And that stuck with me. So when I got to medical school, I looked for mentors that would help me train in how to make treatments for the brain. And so I'm still doing.
It's very exciting work. We really appreciate your stopping by to talk to us about it, and we'd love to hear more about your progress with this drug too.
Oh, well, thank you. It's my pleasure, and we're looking forward to getting this phase 3 trial going. And we want to get this drug to patients.
Dr. Longo, thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, folks, for a deeper dive on everything happening in the rare disease space, you can visit cnbc.com/cures, and there you can join thousands of people by signing up for the CNBC Cures newsletter. You can also scan the QR code on your screen now to sign up for the latest in the rare disease community. Alzheimer's is not rare, but this drug could work on some rare diseases potentially as well.
It definitely could.
Yeah.
Coming up, a heroic weekend for the Odyssey. First, though, the